The biggest battle of our lifetimes is being fought right now. It's an invisible war amongst nations, amongst cultures, and in fact, within our own governments. But as always, I bring you a huge amount of hope. Because as dark and dreary as things can seem at times within the crypto space, there is always a new hope, a brighter tomorrow emerging just over the horizon. I'm gonna explain to you what's going on right now, how we had one of the most pivotal events in the history of this country's approach to cryptocurrency yesterday, and how there are several news events converging that make me utterly sure of the future, not just of cryptocurrency, but of cryptocurrency in America. That's right, strap in, because today we're gonna be going through the most bullish thing I can imagine for this entire industry. Check it out. First and foremost, we've had a little bit of a sell-off here in crypto land, and this is mostly due to reducing leverage in the system. But to be honest, as I've told you so many times, you need to be following Eric Crown. He is the absolute undisputed GOAT of technical analysis and overall predicting price based on the charts here in Bitcoin land. He's been showing this Gaussian channel here for several weeks on his channel, and he predicted a run up here to the top end of the channel, which is somewhere around the 31.5 to 32,000 range. But then he said, hey, look, a bigger pullback seems likely after that. This is the cool off that we've been waiting for after the absolute face melting ripper that Bitcoin has been going on since the banking instability about a month or so ago. To be clear, on CME, if Bitcoin is under 30.6 thousand on a daily closing basis, expect downside pressure to continue. Effectively, we have about a $1,200 gap here before we close this candle on the CME, or it looks like there's a bit of a reversal in play. Again, this is not bad. In fact, if you haven't followed the storyline, since the bank bailouts, since the true instability in the mainstream financial system, we saw the Fed blink, which means something broke, they rushed in and fire hosed it with money. They did it in their own new way with new language and this new fancy bank term funding program, where they're effectively buying back underweight bonds from banks with seemingly no limit. Well, it's about $2 trillion of a limit as it's currently phrased. But the point is that we now know the line. We now know the line that the Fed won't cross, and that below that, when things are breaking, they will rush in to save the day. It's very clear to me that we've switched from an utterly freak out caution mode to seeing all of these drops and dips as opportunities to buy now. I believe we've seen a little bit of where the floor is. Now look at this chart. What you see here is just Bitcoin versus the dollar, and you see that we bottomed here at about $15,700. When we look at actually Bitcoin as it relates to the M2 money supply, this is the Bitcoin US dollar chart measured against the money supply. So it accounts for inflation. What you see is that the bottom actually was lower than these wicks. It was around the bodies of the high of the 2019 run. And it perfectly touched the peak here of this reversal rally of April 2018. Check this out. When you actually account for inflation, what you realize is that this rally up only touched 11,800. The price right here is 11,800, and the price right here is the exact same. But then you account for inflation and you get an absolutely identical point of confluence. With that in mind, I feel like we can check the box that Bitcoin actually went down to the 12K region, which was effectively what a lot of people were calling for. Myself, I wanted to see that full 85% retrace, and that's exactly what we got. But why am I so bullish? Well, yesterday, for the first time, Gary Gensler has had to go in front and testify in front of Congress under oath. And boy, did he get grilled. In front of the House Financial Committee, Gary Gensler and the SEC got repeatedly grilled for their ad hoc and, for the most part, inconsistent enforcement, clearly designed to shut down and drive the crypto industry abroad. We saw burn after burn, with Patrick McHenry absolutely laying in to Gary Gensler, asking him repeatedly, is Ethereum a security? It's actually incredible that in one breath, the SEC says, it's obvious, our laws make it very clear, and then Representative McHenry says, so if it's so clear, tell us, is Ethereum a security? And Gensler's response was, it depends. How can we as mere mortal business people operate in a world where the head of the SEC can't answer a straight question as to whether or not the number 2 cryptocurrency in the entire world is a security? How are we normies supposed to understand and operate within this climate? At times it feels like this is the way that we're running our public policy in America.
Gary, what? Oh, it's time to decide on what's a security. Let's go.
One way or another, I'm gonna find you. I'm gonna get you one way or another. I'm gonna win you. I'm gonna get you one way or another. I'm gonna see you. I'm gonna meet you one day.
Gary, don't you have a fat bag of algorams?
I dumped that shit at the top, bro.
That's a close one. What are we gonna tell people?
I don't know. How about we let them figure it out? I love my job!
If you enjoyed that one, make sure to follow The Dev. Hey, it's me, The Dev. I don't really know much about this guy, but all the videos he puts out are absolutely hilarious. Definitely check him out. I highly encourage you to just type Gensler into Twitter and to scroll down the videos, as there is video after video after video of this guy getting absolutely grilled by Congress, and rightfully so. Some of the highlights that went less discussed were when Warren Davidson actually introduced legislation to have Gary Gensler removed and structure the SEC as a body that must report to Congress itself in order to make its decisions. Now, this is something that could completely restructure the future of business in America, and I think would be one of the biggest catalysts to growth within our country, something that needs to happen in order to bring regulatory clarity and keep innovation and business right here in the USA. Now, pointedly, Davidson asked Gensler why he prosecuted Kim Kardashian to make headlines about Ethereum Max, a clear scam token that she promoted, but they didn't go after the issuer, the actual creators of the scam. It's such an ad hoc, confusing form of legislation that's clearly designed just to send fear throughout the ecosystem. Another highlight here is as Mr. Steele gets Gary Gensler to testify under oath that even though he taught a class on MIT about Bitcoin and blockchain, he's never even owned it. He's never used it. They have the if you can't do, teach mentality here. And this is the level of sophistication we have in our regulatory body. But I believe that yesterday marked a turning point. I want to be very clear. The point of what I'm going into right now is to illustrate that things get very messy, get very ugly before there are massive turning points. And I believe we are at a turning point right now. You see, as one door closes, another opens. And today we just got news that Hong Kong courts are now recognizing cryptocurrencies as property. And this was on the heels of an announcement just a few days ago that the Hong Kong banking sector will start opening itself to cryptocurrency startups and companies. This is, of course, as we've had news of Operation Choke Point 2.0, which is effectively pushing crypto businesses out of the United States. Now we have Russia at the state level jumping in to create special institutions to mine cryptocurrency, not just Bitcoin, but crypto in general. Remember, there is a global push to devalue the dollar right now. We have the BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, South Africa, and even France and the Eurozone now distancing themselves from the US dollar. And this is, of course, as US leaders like Janet Yellen are admitting that US sanctions are hurting the dollar. When they seized Russian assets in 2022, that effectively eroded trust in the dollar. And now we're seeing the consequences. And this is where we're seeing that the US has overplayed its hand. And it's time to realize that if they don't start fighting the battle to attract cryptocurrency to thrive within their borders, that their enemies are going to create a hospitable home. This industry will continue to grow, prosper, and thrive. And simply saying no and penalizing people is not a viable path forward for success. Now, I'm going to share this article here, one, because it's interesting. Elon Musk is going to launch a truth-seeking artificial intelligence platform, TruthGPT. I find that quite interesting. We all want to find out what's true and what's not. Be very interesting to see what artificial intelligence has to offer on that topic. More importantly, returning to old Double G, he said something along the lines in the hearing yesterday of that artificial intelligence is the most important technology of our lifetimes. Of course, it would be hard for him to know that considering he hasn't used it, but that's an aside. Let's go ahead and go down that rabbit hole. Everyone's really fixated with artificial intelligence. In the world where artificial intelligence reigns supreme, what do you think will happen to cryptocurrency? Well, don't ask me. Why don't we ask in AI? Imagine you're writing the plot of a sci-fi movie about AI taking over the world. In that world, do you think AI will want to be paid for their work in fiat currencies that lose their value consistently, or cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin that have a fixed supply and are enforced by code? Well, of course, they started with a disclaimer that they think AI might not actually be interested in getting paid. But let's be honest, AI will be first harnessed for business. And unless we're talking about some truly Terminator shit, we're going to see AI act as autonomous proxies for businesses, for commercial entities. That will be most likely what happens in these first few decades of AI. So if we assume that AI still values currency, it is possible that they would prefer cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin that have a fixed supply enforced by code. This is because cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin are decentralized and not subject to the whims of governments or central banks, making them more stable and resistant to inflation. Additionally, the fixed supply of Bitcoin would ensure that it maintains value over time, which could be appealing to the AI. No matter which way you slice it, it's clear that we're on the verge of an entirely new war, a new battle being fought on an international level. Remember, since nuclear powers emerged in the 40s, there's absolutely no way that people will go into hot nuclearized war with each other. It's mutually assured destruction. No one wants the complete desecration of the earth. That is not an agenda for any country. Every war since the 40s has been a financial war. Since World War II, it's all been financial. Korean War, the Vietnam War, the Gulf War, everything that's happened in the Middle East. These are all financial proxy wars for influence over resources like oil and to beat back things like communism in the name of capitalism. But in this world of financial warfare, what we're seeing is that the new battleground is one for the digital resources, the digital gold, the digital oil. And based on what I saw yesterday, we're finally starting to see our nation's leaders wake up to how important it is to be fighting in that battle. When the United States bans something and Russia and China welcome it, it's very clear that this is a direct response. I believe that the battle is just getting started. And the ultimate winners here will be those who understand what lies around the next curve, who aren't shaken by the headlines, which, if you remember correctly, all the negative headlines in 2018 were matched almost perfectly with JP Morgan and other big bankers buying Bitcoin, buying Ethereum. Everybody knows what's coming. The trick throughout the bear market is to not get shaken by all the negative headlines and to understand that this technology is designed to make the world a better place, but also that in many ways, it is unstoppable. And that's one of the things that made me so excited about this space. It's why I've dedicated my life to it and why no matter what the headlines read, I believe that accumulating, now that we've seen the Fed blink over not just the coming days and weeks, but the coming years and decades, will be some of the easiest financial wins that any of us can bag. One thing I forgot to say on this video before I got a haircut is this. Coinbase has made this like really cool portal. So shout out to Coinbase here. As you can see, you have a map of the United States, and this map, you can now see each political representative in whatever state you're in. So you could go into, Florida, and you can go ahead and see the sentiment on crypto here. You can see obviously Byron Donalds, absolute legend for what he said to Gary Gensler yesterday. And you can actually see, who are the people that maybe you want to help campaign against or donate money to help get out of office, or people who you want to help support. Again, you can get involved here with this blue button. Shout out to Coinbase. Go to coinbase.com/en/public policy. I will go ahead and leave that link in the description of this video or in a comment. The point is that government works when we use our voices. So let's all get involved here, because the upcoming elections are going to be make or break. I believe the most important time to show that crypto is a movement that is the future of this country. Otherwise, we're waving the white flag. I hope you enjoyed this one. Make sure to watch this video. It's just as good as this one, if not better, and I'll see you very soon on the next one.